somewhere in my 40s, I started saying, okay, I want to do something that's meaningful and that's good and that you can make money. And I think that those two things, I don't think that they're opposites. I think good brings money. It does. If you're doing something that's good, it brings money.
Welcome to our series entitled The IAM Podcast, a podcast about innovation, business, and most importantly, people. In this series, we'll be talking to founders, executives, and various experts about their vision, challenges, best practices, and lessons learned throughout their journey. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Today, we are joined by the founder and the CEO at Diagnostics, Mr. Guy Goldman. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. And you? Welcome to the IAM Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I've followed your stuff, and it's very exciting to be a part of it.
Yes, we are so excited to have you here. And well, let's start this. I want you to tell the world, everyone who's listening and watching, how disrupting your product is.
All right. So I don't like the word disruptive because it's a little bit too overused. But when I look at our technology, I can't think about, revolutionary might be the word.
I love it. Revolutionary.
But so what we've done is we've actually created a sensor that you put it inside the toilet. And as a person urinates, it's doing urinalysis in real time. Now, the sensor is designed so a 74-year-old woman can install it and use it. So it has to be something that's completely passive. If she has to do anything outside or they have to do anything that's outside the normal use of a toilet, they're not going to do it. So we made an optic sensor. And that way what we're able to do is we're able to do urinalysis at the molecular levels, find the composition of the urine stream, and put it into the cloud. And then what we're able to do is create these very granular profiles because people, they urinate between 5 to 7 times a day. So it's a lot of information. And you get very granular profiles of the urine. And then you're able to do stuff like early disease detection. So a person might have some kind of something growing in their body, an infection of some sort. And we're able to detect that way before they get the symptoms. So how easy is it to deal with like a UTI, for example, before you get the symptoms? You take antibiotics, you kill it. That's it. You took care of it. Versus when you get the symptoms. And now again, our first market, our initial market is home-based remote monitoring of the elderly population. So think of an 80-something-year-old woman who has a UTI. She gets she's fever. She can't walk, she doesn't eat, she can't drink, she's in pain. There's all these symptoms associated with it. But if you can detect it earlier, it's developing in the body. Now you can detect it earlier, give her antibiotics, take care of it. She never gets, she's never hospitalized, she's never nothing. She doesn't even feel it. Or men and kidney stones, So it's all these things that you're able to early detect. So how revolutionary is it? So what it's doing is it's kind of changing the way that we deal with our body. We use our bodies, personally as a diagnostics on how we're feeling. And we go to the doctor when we're not feeling well. But if we're going to the doctor when we're not feeling well, it's a little bit too late. You kind of want to go to the doctor before you're not feeling well, just a step before. And that's what we're offering to the world.
Wow. Early detection. That's gold. Okay.
Yes.
First, how did this idea all came about? Who inspired you? What gap did you see in the industry that you felt, okay, I need to solve this?
So I always say that if you develop a technology or technologies that are developed that skip over the evolutionary curve, it's always a personal story behind it. Okay, so take, for example, your emails, right? You used to get your emails on your computer, and then it moved to your phone, and it moved to your watch, and next thing to your glasses. Those are evolutionary technology steps. They're great. I'm addicted to all of them, so that's fine. But truly, technologies that skip over the evolutionary curve does, something personal. What happened to me was I'm living in Israel. My family is living in Israel. And I was managing a company in London, a fairly large company in London. And one day I get this call from my mom, who's based in Jerusalem. And she tells me that she's been diagnosed with ovarian cancer, And so your whole world flips over, and how can it be? You're so healthy and you jog and you play tennis. Like, how can that be? Whatever. We get over that. She had a few surgeries, then she started chemotherapy. And me, my background is computer science and physics. I know nothing about medicine. The only thing I know about chemotherapy is these terrible side effects. So I find myself calling home like 4 or 5 times a day to see how she's doing, because I just want to know, is she eating? Is she drinking? Is she walking? Is she sleeping? Just, is she feeling the side effects? Like, what's going on? And my brothers and sisters who were here, who were mostly taking care of her, they said, look, it's great that you care so much, but stop calling because you're driving us crazy. Either come back or shut up, one of the two. And so, I was thinking, okay, I can get her one of these watches, which is great, a smart watch. So I can detect, so I get her steps and I get her heart rate, which is good, but it's not exactly what I want. And so I started looking for a technology to monitor her. And now we're talking about 2017. Okay. We're not talking about like 1986. Like, what do we have in 86, right? 2017. And I'm looking around for technology. And then my dad got sick, and that was like, okay. So I ended up coming back to Israel at the end. But it was just shocking to me because anyone who's my age has parents who are about their age, and they have some, hopefully not. I hope everyone's parents are healthy, but they probably have some type of condition going on, So I can't be the only person trying to get this information. And that's what happened. That's why I started out and I said, a 74-year-old woman is designed for a 74-year-old woman because designed for my mom. That was the designing factor and the person that we look at as the persona who uses our product. And it was just to get just basic information, because, hydration, she eating, stress levels, and all that stuff is in the urine. All that stuff is easily found in the urine. Just you have to, and she's not going to, my mom would not like collect her urine in a cup and dip a stick and then send it to me because, to nourish my curiosity. She's never going to do that, so it has to be completely passive. You just put it on the toilet and you don't touch it. You don't think about it. You just urinate the same way. You don't have to aim. You don't have to turn on or off the light. So that's where it came from. And then it kind of ballooned and people are telling me, oh, wow, you can use it for, for military and for law enforcement and for schools and for safety at work, everyone's coming up with all these things. And so we were kind of like, wow, this is great. And then it was like, wait a minute, you got to slow down, and then we kind of went back and we said, okay, it's home-based remote monitoring for the third age. That's where we're starting, nice and slow.
Yes. Okay. So you mentioned about remote monitoring, 100% passive. And okay, please talk to us about the product. How can we use it? What do we do? Or what can it detect? What is it made of? How accurate it is? Okay.
So the first one, again, it's the remote monitoring for the elderly population. So what we decided to do is actually make it into a toilet seat. So it's the whole toilet seat. And the reason we had to do that is because women and men at the age of 75 and above, some 95% of the men actually sit down when they urinate. So not urinating standing up. Okay. And then we had a problem because we do optics on the top part of the toilet. This is going to sound weird, and I apologize already for what I'm about to say. But when a man sits down, okay, his genitalia will interrupt the light. Okay. So now we had to overcome this. Like, how do we deal with a man sitting down, his genitalia getting the light? So what we had to do is we actually had to raise up the seat a little bit. So there's a 3-inch raise on the seat. So it's a little bit thick. And then a seat, so it adds 4 inches. Then we drop down a 1/2 inch. So we work with a company called Kohler in the United States, who are a large toilet manufacturer, and they gave us the stats and designs and all that kind of stuff to make sure that and then we actually cover the genitalia when a man sits as well. So the first one, it actually looks like it's very cool. It's not too space agey, but it's got some lights on it. It makes it look, it's an upgrade to the toilet when you put it on. It looks pretty cool. And like I said, we're sending light beams at different frequencies across the top. So right on the rim of the toilet. Okay. So it's like a curtain of light. And then the urine breaks that curtain of light. And what we're doing is we're using a technology or a science called spectroscopy. Okay. It's a very difficult word, but it's a pretty simple science. It's kind of the way your microwave works, if you will. We send in lights at a particular wavelength, and it interacts with the molecule. And it takes that interaction, the molecule starts to vibrate. And then that vibration is actually taking energy from the light that we send in. So if we send in 100 units of energy and it hit a molecule, it vibrates and it takes, let's say, 30 units of energy. So on the other side, we get 70 units of energy. So we know that we put in 100 and we reach 70. That means that we had to have hit a particular molecule that we're looking for, because we know the wavelength that we put in. So it's a very, very sensitive science. So we're able to detect, for example, proteins and red blood cells and nitrites. That's what we've worked on so far. We're able to do it at a 98% accuracy rate.
Wow.
So the other home-based diagnostics for urine are those sticks. They're about 85% accurate. There's a whole bunch of problems with the sticks because they're chemistry. So, if you leave it out or if it oxidates too much or stuff like that, they get ruined. So we're able to detect at 98% and we're just getting started, right? So very soon we're getting up to 100% accuracy. So right now we're doing red blood cells, protein, and nitrite. We also do volume of urine, pressure, color, and frequency. Okay, all those things are what we check right now. We're going to be adding in ketones and creatinine and glucose, sodium, everything that's in the urine. We're going to slowly add those things onto our, to the menu of stuff. And each one of these tells, hundreds of different stories. And when you take the protein and you say, okay, so it's protein, but the volume of the urine has changed also. So I'm seeing the person's urinating more times a day, less urine. Okay. That's very telling. And if they have protein and nitrites and they're urinating more times a day, so it's a multivariable analysis that you can do that can give you like spot on indications on what's going on inside your body.
Wow. That's a lot. That's really revolutionary. I saw on your website, it says urine is the new blood. So yes. You can find out a lot, thousands of biomarkers to early detect thousands of diseases. So right now, what diseases can it detect? Can you talk about that?
So we're at the layer of providing data, not so much to diagnostics. Okay. So we provide the data. So like a thermometer, right? A thermometer, you put it in, you have 38 Celsius. It doesn't say if you have a flu or if you've got something else. It just tells you this is, you're 38. That's your temperature of your body. So we're the same. We just give, hey, this is what we found inside the urine. Okay. And we let other people decide what they're going to do with that data. Okay. So for example, people who have chronic diseases and they want to do chronic disease management, if it's diabetics or if it's pre-diabetics and they want to get a read on how their body's doing, if it's people, who are doing chemotherapy and they want to get a reading on how is the chemo, working and how's the body reacting, right? So the diagnostic layer, we're leaving for other people to decide what they want to do with the data that we're giving them. Mm-hmm. So for example, when we're talking about the third age and we're talking about assisted living facilities, their main problems are women with UTI, heart failure. Mm-hmm. So people have heart failure, men with kidney stones, and dehydration. Those are their big, heavy hitters. Okay. Now we give the indication. That's why we've gone after red blood cells, white blood cells, nitrites, and proteins, because it's indicative of those diseases. Mm. Okay. So, and being able to predict someone with a heart failure. Okay. There's your body, either it uses all the sodium in your blood or it releases all the sodium in your blood. So either you urinate a lot more or you urinate a lot less before you're going to have a heart failure event. So those are the four things that we're giving: UTI, kidney stone, heart failure, and dehydration. Which is definitely enough for assisted living facility. That's why we're in touch with them and they're contacting us, and they're our first customers.
Okay.
So those are the things that are affecting them the most, and we can give them early detection of all those.
How has this impacted them? I mean, those assisted living centers. You can also talk about your other target market, like who are the users of this product?
Yeah. So the reason we went after, so we're actually going after three different verticals initially. We're going after assisted living facilities. We're going after telemedicine companies and outpatient services. And the reason is because they have an incentive for people not to be hospitalized. They're trying to reduce the number of hospitalizations of their patients or residents. Okay. Now, if we're able to early detect a UTI, so a doctor can prescribe an antibiotic, and then the person doesn't get hospitalized. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, there's the symptoms, and once they have the symptoms, they're already hospitalized. And then in the hospital is actually, working a tremendous amount of effort in reducing the symptoms, also to reduce the UTI, but also just the symptoms. So the idea of early detecting reduces hospitalization from these groups, and these groups have an incentive to actually either buy the units, supply them, or encourage their users to buy it and use it. So that's kind of our first target market that we're going after.
Okay.
And then the information will go to the clinical staff, and it will give indicators, based on people's trends and stuff like that. And then they'll be able to decide what to do with it. Our next market, which is a huge market that to me, it's actually a lot more exciting.
Yeah.
Is the wellness market. Okay. So urine not only can it tell you, if you're developing something in your body from a health perspective, but it's also tells you a lot of information about your diet, how your workouts, are you working out well? Physiological creatinine tells you, it gives you an indication on how good your workout is and how much fat you're burning, so it might be, you might find that if you do yoga, instead of running for 2 hours, you're burning more fat. Maybe you should move to yoga, not do the running, which any runner would love. So it gives you indications of your electrolytes. Are your electrolytes balanced or disbalanced? It gives you indications, and then when you use it in parallel with other things, so, those watches we were talking about that monitor your sleep. So fantastic. You wake up in the morning, you look at your watch, it tells you didn't sleep very well. Well, okay, I know that. I woke up. Like, I don't really need my watch to tell me that. But if it tells you that you didn't sleep well, we can look at your urine before you went to bed. And we can say, hey, it looks like you don't sleep as well when you eat salty foods before you go to sleep. Try eating a banana and let's see what happens, and then we can help actually people improve their sleep quality because we're getting their urine before they go to sleep. We get their quality of sleep through their watch or whatever they use. And then we're able to put those two things together and give suggestions to people what they should or should not do before they go to sleep. Okay. So, so there's a lot of things in the wellness market that are absolutely fantastic.
Right. So where are you now in your journey? I mean, is there an available app we can download your product?
So we are right now at the end of this month, the end of September. August. We're starting our beta process. So we actually have the devices so you can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it. We're going to put it at assisted living and outpatient services, and they're going to start using it. And the reason we're doing that is not so much to kind of improve the accuracy of our models, because it doesn't help there. because when someone urinates, it's in the toilet, they flush it. We don't know what the real urine looked like. But what we're doing the beta for is to make sure that people are interacting well with the seat, that it works well for them. They don't hurt themselves. They don't scratch themselves out or whatever. You give it to users, you never know how they're going to use it, right? So it's in order to learn more about the seat to make sure it works. After we do that, we're doing something in the European market, and we're doing a CE self-certification where we self-certify the device. And then by the end of this year, around Christmas time, we're launching the product. And then you'll be able to download the application, buy a seat, put it on your toilet, and be healthy.
Well, that's a good Christmas gift. Something to look forward to this Christmas.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. It doesn't really run easy. I mean, everything. So please share with us, what are your challenges?
I think initially our challenge was, when I came up with this idea to have the sensor, it was like, okay, what are we going to use? And I was thinking, it was clear to me that it had to be in the toilet. That was pretty fast. I got to that conclusion because people use their toilet anyways, if it was going to be something you breathe into, and that's a new device, they've never done it before or whatever. So it was clear it was in the toilet. I ran up against so much opposition when I spoke. So I went to so Israel is a small country. So I went from university to university, and I'm talking to these professors about optics and acoustics, and everyone's just telling me this is impossible. You can't do spectroscopy, which is such a delicate, sensitive science. You can't use it in a toilet that you have different types of light. You have different fixtures, halogen versus, fluorescent, and all these different types of lights. You can't do it in an open environment, and so like 50% of the people just threw me out of their offices. They're like, you're crazy. You can't do it. You have to have a very controlled environment. And then when I said, okay, the other 50 that kind of agreed that it might be possible, I said, okay, now the urine is actually falling down. It's in movement, and the other 50% threw me out, So I think initially it was hard to wrap our heads around, is it even possible? Okay. And so my background is scientific. I love science. So I'm very scientific in nature. And there were actually two equations that I had that I wrote down. And when I would speak to these professors, I would say to them, but looking at these equations, just on the math, why won't it work? And no one could give me an answer. They just felt like passionately against what we were trying to do, like that it wasn't right to even try. It was like, so initially it was getting over the mental barrier, because the first guy that I brought on board is an electrical optical engineer, right? And so we had to get him over that barrier that it's impossible, and it's not easy to start with your first employee who you have to convince him that it's possible. You want him to be pushing you.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that was our first thing, was just gain, just our brains around if it was going to work. And then when we finally got it to work and we were just, really excited, all of a sudden we came across all these other problems that we didn't foresee because no one's ever done this before, right? So the first time that we saw like protein in urine, we were excited. We were throwing around, we doing shots, the whole thing. And then all of a sudden someone goes, well, wait a minute. What we actually did is we compared urine without protein with urine with protein, and we see a difference. So we were all excited. But what happened if someone else urinates? We're not comparing with and without. We have to just take that particular sample and say if it has protein or not. So also we had a baseline, and now we had a baseline urine from 7.4 billion people.
Ooh.
Okay, well, how do you do that?
How do you do that?
So we found it out. We wrote a patent. That's why I'm telling you this. So, but all of a sudden, wait, how do you baseline everyone's urines? Okay, so the second level of problems that we came across was there's no literature about this. No one's done this. And so we're hitting the problems, one problem after another. All of a sudden, you don't have a flat surface because you're not using a test tube. You're using free fall. So the shape of the drop makes a difference. Well, how do we come? So we're dealing with the problems the first time. There's no literature. We have to deal with this firsthand. And I think that was our second biggest challenge, was because you can't do experimental because you don't have enough time and resources to experiment everything. So you have to develop, and this is our third problem that we overcame. We had to actually develop a new science, So I'm not saying we're like Newton or whatever, but we had to develop a new science that hasn't been done before in order to be able to explain and identify how light goes through different shapes and make that general enough that, because if you urinate enough, you're going to have a drop that's going to be in the shape of a triangle, enough drops, you're going to get every single, so you have to generalize it. And that was a huge problem. From a financial perspective, I think our biggest problem was that, we kind of are moving from kind of angel investors to more institutional investors. And all of a sudden, you're talking to these people, and for them to do technical due diligence, they have to know optics. They've got to know physics, chemistry, and data science. It's like, we've got a lot of different types of engineers working for us, which makes the due diligence a lot harder because it's not so straightforward, and it's got to be one person who can, okay, I can do the science, fine, I got the physics, but now I've got to be able to do the chemistry, because these two things they have to live together. And then once you have that, you have to do the optics. So you've got to get, there's not that many people that can do all three on the same person. So that was a problem, was getting someone, and we were very lucky that Israel's largest HMO company decided to invest in us because they do have the expertise in those fields, and they were able to do the needed due diligence, and they're our lead investor in this round. And that was very lucky, much more than brains. It was luck, I have to admit. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. By the way, how many people are in the team right now?
So we're 10 people, and this Monday we're going to be 11.
Wow. Okay. Welcome to the new one.
Yeah, exactly. I'll let them know. And we're very scientific heavy. So, and that's one of my challenges, is to get more industry people. I need medical device people. I need medical people. We have physicists, we have chemists, we have optics, we're very heavy on those people. And now we need some, more business oriented. So if you know anyone.
If there are people listening right now, watching right now who
give us a call.
Please contact Guy.
Yes, okay. Please.
Okay. Well, so any crazy story, it could be funny. Since you founded your company, funny or whatever. Crazy story.
Well, I think the big shocker when people come into our office, okay, is and I was going to do it in my office, but there's too many people, so it was a little noisy. We have a urine lab in our office, okay? And then whenever like an investor comes or anyone comes to visit the company, they're required to urinate in a cup, because we take their urine in a cup, we put it through our we call it a mechanical dildo. It's that we pour and we make urine, so we're simulating urination stream, and we test it, and we're constantly teaching the model that way. So when you walk into our office, we just have tables full of cups with urine. And it's always so funny. You bring a guy in, he looks, he's like, "Whoa,
where am I?"
I didn't think this through before I came in. Yeah. So it's just fun to watch people how they relate to.
Yes, to I wish we can show like how their face reactions were. Okay, to anyone who will be investing or going inside that room,
just know you're coming in. Come with a cup.
Now they know.
And one of the things that I do, and I'll just end with this, is so they come in and we give them coffee, and usually I give an explanation on what they're going to see and stuff like that. Then. And so I give them coffee and water, and I sit them down in the room, and I turn down the air conditioner to like 4 degrees. Okay. So they're sitting there and they're freezing the whole presentation. And once the presentation's over, they run to the bathroom. And that's how we encourage people to give us urine.
That's a good strategy.
Yeah. Everything we've learned, it's all tested. It's all battlefield tested.
What a flow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have one question. Since we're talking about healthcare, I mean, I'd like to ask you, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, okay, how do you achieve work-life balance? Making decisions, you're building a team, everything.
So I'm happy to hear any recommendations. Look, it's hard. It's hard, especially because what we're doing is very, very challenging, and I know, like, we have an applied mathematician. Okay. And he's just, there's such a thing. There's a guy who actually does math all day. And he's got this attitude, he's got a problem and he can't release it, and I know it, I can see it. I'll walk in and I'll be talking to him and he's just, just all the stuff. And it's hard for me to try to push him to disengage, so we went out, we had like a night out with the team and everything. And you just see the guys, he's on his first beer for like 2 hours. Like, dude, you got to also do that, or else it doesn't go away. So I actually got him into running, to start running, because I need him to disengage, because, I forget burnout, that I suffer from. I'm worried about him and what he's going to suffer from if he can't. So we actually have a woman who comes in once every 3 weeks. And she's like one of these very bubbly kind of personalities. And she just talks to people and just,
Wow.
listen. I wouldn't say a psychiatrist or something like that, but she's just a fun person to have around. And, people talk to her and I'm trying to, with her, is work out plans for each. We're still small enough that I can do individual plans, but it's hard to get them to disengage. It's hard for me. I'm the first one to, I submerge myself in my problems. And I'll go crazy in my head until I solve it. It's not easy, and I'm trying my best to find ways for people. I'm a strong believer in physical activity. So it's where I, gravitate to. And that's kind of all I have in my bag of tricks is go run, because it helps everything. But this woman, one of the things that she told one of these people is, take the kids to the museum, and she bought them tickets, go to the museum, because sometimes that's what's needed.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Work very hard, but also rest well. You came from Hadassah Accelerator program. So
yes,
please share some of the important lessons you have learned.
Okay. So it was kind of one of those things where I applied for something. It was an IBM. It's IBM's Hadassah. They work with Hadassah. And it was a rigorous kind of workout to get accepted. There was like a lot of interviews and stuff like that, and pitching. And once we were in, I think that, again, we don't really have anyone with a medical background, obviously investors love to hear that. But, so for me, it was really good to be in the Hadassah setting because I was there with the doctors. I was there with the thing, and I was learning the process from within, So all of a sudden they say, yes, you have to file a Helsinki. I'm thinking, isn't that like some city in Finland? Like, what's a Helsinki, And so I had to learn it and figure out how to write a protocol and then submit it and do the whole thing. And so those kind of things were extremely, extremely helpful, being in the hospital where you don't feel completely stupid asking the question, and they can give you information and resources that are very targeted to what you need, instead of going and having a 4-hour consulting engagement with someone who explains, the history of Helsinki, but very targeted. And here, you have to write this and this and this, and no, you have to fill in this and add that. And they were very, very helpful in getting those things together. The other thing is, I don't think I would have thought about urine in cardiology, it's not like your initial, like, you think kidneys, urine, kidneys, right? But
Yeah.
cardiology. And then all of a sudden you have a cardiologist that's like, wait, and he comes up to me after and he goes, listen, I think the ultimate killer application for you is early detection of heart failure. And at first I'm like, we do urine. Yeah. Not EKG or something. It's like, that doesn't make sense. Like, what are you talking about? And then he went through and walked through it with me. And I was like, wow, okay. Didn't know that. So that was very helpful that we had access to just a whole kind of slur of different doctors.
Wow.
And they're all willing, they're all happy to help. I mean, because they know that what we're doing is helping them. So it's good.
Yes, and it will impact the world. Okay. Any tips or advice you can give to all the aspiring entrepreneurs and startup founders? So
this isn't my first company. So I've started other companies. Okay. And the first tip I would say is kind of make sure you know what you're getting into, because it does take over your life. It does. It is extremely demanding. If I have a day that I don't get rejected twice in the same day, I'm feeling like I'm failing. Like my pipeline isn't big enough so I can get rejected twice a day. Okay. And when you get rejected, so what happens? You raise money and then you stop raising money and you start working on the company, and then also you're raising money again, right? Mm-hmm. So when you go back into that swing again where you're raising money, you get rejected the first time, the second time, and it's like it's annoying. And you're like, what? They're so stupid. They don't get it. They're gonna, and I'm gonna put them on my shaming list and the whole thing, right? So you have to work out the rejection muscle. And then, so at first it takes me about, a half a day to get over the rejection. Slowly, it takes about 15 minutes and 5 minutes and 3 minutes. And then I'm actually waiting for it. Right? So it's not, entrepreneurship, again, it's kind of been my life. It's really super fun. It's really super engaging, but know before you start, and everyone tells you, oh, it's really hard. Yeah, but really internalize that, upon the rejections that you're going to be getting from everyone, it doesn't matter. You're talking to your friend. They're like, oh, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard, and you got to just like understand that you're the only person in the world who believes in it. And you have to convince the world. You have to take everyone with you on this journey, because no one's coming on board and they already bought a ticket. No one's buying a ticket, right? You're going to convince, and you're pitching everyone you're seeing on the flight. You're pitching the flight attendant, or else it doesn't work. And that someone has to know that this is what they're engaged. It's like getting married, at the end of the day, it's like getting married. You are getting married to this concept, and make sure that you're ready for that. Because it takes everything out of you. And then when you start, we have a rule in our office. Every time we do something new, before we turn on the system, I get everyone in the office and I say, okay, listen, everyone, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's God's cruel, game that you turn it on and it will not work, but we'll get it to work. So I just want to get everyone ready, because a disappointment, when after you've done all these design reviews and you've discovered and checked and tested in a million different ways, you're going to turn it on and it's not going to work. It never does. And now when you have a team of people, you're in charge of making sure that these people don't hit rock bottom. Because the last thing you want is for this, you're your crew of 10 discouraged people, what are you going to do? There's only so many beers you can send their way. You've got, and that's artificial. You have to get everyone knowing that it's not going to work. And I'll tell you, we've been this for a year and a half, and we have never been pleasantly surprised. Never. It never works. I don't know why. It's amazing. It's the one thing that stays constant. So yeah, know what you're getting into, and make sure that you understand that it's that rejection, whatever the rejection, if it's technology rejection or an investor rejection or a customer rejection, it follows through. And I think it's someday, I hope it flips. and not there yet. I hope you interview me after that. That would be great. But I hope at some point, I hope so, that it grabs its own momentum. Right now, there's no momentum. It's just thrust from the top, from the whole leading team, the whole management team.
Wow.
You've got to thrust it and push it the whole time.
You're like a coach in a movie, While you were saying that, I was like, okay. Okay. Very interesting. Great great tips. And we are looking forward to you. Yeah. Come back soon for more interesting news.
Yeah, happy to. I'd really be happy to. And I hope to have a good story to tell, I might be wearing a McDonald's cap. I don't know.
Well, I have to ask you this last statement. You should complete. I am Guy, your blank founder. Like, who is Guy? And what do you want to be known for as a founder?
Wow, that's a really, okay. So I have this belief, and it started, all right, I'll tell everyone I'm over 40. But when I hit 40, there was this kind of an awakening that happened. And I was like, okay, I really want to do something that I consider meaningful. The companies I started beforehand, it was meaningful for some IT guy. It was meaningful for some guy who was doing software or whatever, debugging and stuff like that. So it was meaningful for some people, but it wasn't on a really large scale. And I kind of said that I want to do something that's really large scale. Again, I got into this by a complete coincidence. It wasn't like something that I had planned. I want to get into healthcare. I was very scared of healthcare. All I know about healthcare is FDA. And I know that sucks, right? That's kind of what I know. Healthcare, FDA, don't get involved. Okay. But somewhere in my 40s, I started saying, okay, I want to do something that's meaningful and that's good and that you can make money. And I think that those two things, I don't think that they're opposites. I think good brings money. It does. If you're doing something that's good, it brings money. It brings, and I want to do something large scale. So I was actually working on something a little bit different, very different, but again, large scale cross industry for everyone in the world. It's something that everyone in the world needs,
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that we get this going. I do believe that, I don't know where you live. I don't know anything about your house, but I can pretty much tell in certainty that you have in your house a refrigerator and a stove and a microwave and a television set. Okay. I don't know. But I'm assuming because it's just part of the home kit. It's part of what you have in a home. You have closets because it's part of what you have in a home. And you have your device in your toilet that keeps tabs on your health. I believe it's going to become part of the home device. It's just there. It's in every home. It's in every toilet. And we're working with toilet manufacturers today with three of the largest toilets. So I talked about Kohler, but we're also talking to Toto and Geberit in Europe. And they want to put it inside their ceramics. They want to put it inside the toilet. So it's not a clip-on like an aftermarket thing. It's inside the toilet itself. And it will become that. So I hope that I can make an influence that's broad. And it crosses everyone, because I think that those are the things that are worth working on.
That's you.
It is, but and I think that honestly that comes from my dad. My dad kind of pioneered the whole alternative energy industry. He started that industry, if you will. And so he can't think locally. Like he doesn't even have. He didn't have. He would always think, the planet.
Yeah, large scale.
Very large scale. So yeah, that kind of thinking just as it has to be like that. Anything else? Not that's it's not worth it, because I think everything's worth it. But why not go for the freaking top?
Yeah, wow. So that's Guy, your large scale impact the world founder.
I hope so.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was very insightful, very detailed, and very useful. Thank you, guys.
Well, good. Thank you. And I hope to catch up sometime very soon.
This podcast is powered by IAMOps.io. Optimize your cloud infrastructure in CI/CD process with IMOps.io dedicated DevOps team. Check out www.imops.io and get a DevOps team now. Make sure to check out www.imops.io if you want to know more about us. Subscribe to our podcast so you can get notified every time we post a new video. Thank you, and you have a great day.